Medieval fashion. The concept of witches wearing pointy hats may have originated from the fashion of the Middle Ages. Pointed hats were in style during this period, and they were worn by both common people and the clergy. Over time, this fashion element may have been incorporated into depictions of witches.
Ever pondered about the origin of the witches' pointy hats? A curious silhouette, isn't it? That tall, conical hat with a sharp bent tip that's become synonymous with the image of a witch. But how did this particular piece of headgear become a symbol of the supernatural and the occult? Well, prepare to embark on a fascinating journey through the annals of fashion, society, and folklore. The tale begins in the Middle Ages, a time of chivalry, kingdoms, and a distinct sense of style. Fashion was an important part of medieval life, and the pointy hat was a prominent feature. Both men and women donned these towering headpieces, which were often elaborately decorated with jewels, feathers, or even religious symbols. From the lowliest peasant to the highest-ranking clergy, the pointy hat was a universal trend. But like all fashions, the popularity of the pointy hat ebbed and flowed. By the late Middle Ages, this stylish accessory began to lose its appeal among the upper classes. However, it remained popular among the working class, especially the elderly. As this demographic often held roles associated with herbal remedies and healing, they were often viewed with suspicion and fear in a society that was increasingly aware of and wary about witchcraft. As the fear of witchcraft escalated during the 15th and 16th centuries, the image of the witch began to take form in the public consciousness. This image was often a caricature of an old, haggard woman, bent with age and, yes, wearing a pointy hat. This visual stereotype was further cemented by artists and illustrators of the time who often depicted witches in this manner in their works. This association was not limited to just Europe. Across the pond in the New World, colonists carried these superstitions and images with them. During the infamous Salem witch trials in the late 17th century, the accused were often described wearing similar attire, further solidifying the connection in the popular imagination. Moving into the 18th and 19th centuries, the pointy hat was firmly entrenched in the imagery of witches. Storybooks, plays, and eventually films and television shows consistently depicted witches with their signature pointy hats. Even today, when one thinks of a witch, the image that often comes to mind is of a woman cloaked in black, with a broomstick in one hand and a pointy hat perched atop her head. So, there you have it, the journey of the pointy hat, from a medieval fashion trend to a symbol of witchcraft. A fascinating tale of how societal fears and superstitions can shape our perceptions and fashion trends, isn't it? And remember, the next time you see a pointy hat, whether it's on Halloween or in a storybook, remember its rich and intriguing history.
Why do we picture witches with pointed hats and crooked noses, flying on broomsticks with black cats by their side? Where does this image so deeply ingrained in our cultural psyche originate? The answers to these questions take us back centuries to a time when fear and superstition ruled the hearts and minds of people. Our journey begins in the Middle Ages, a time when the image of the witch was far removed from our contemporary stereotype. Witches, or wise women as they were often known, were respected members of their communities, providing herbal remedies and midwifery services. However, the rise of Christianity, with its strict dichotomy of good and evil, cast these women in a sinister light. Witches became scapegoats for societal ills, their healing arts reinterpreted as devilish pacts. Fast forward to the 16th and 17th centuries, the era of the witch hunts. Widespread paranoia about witches led to the creation of the Malleus Maleficarum, a manual for identifying and prosecuting witches. Here we see the birth of the iconic witch stereotype. The pointed hat, thought to symbolize a connection to the devil, the broomstick, a symbol of domesticity, twisted into a tool of flight, and the black cat, a supposed familiar of the witch, all became part of a visual code used to marginalize and persecute those accused of witchcraft. As we move into the 19th century, the image of the witch began to soften. Literary works such as The Wizard of Oz introduced the dichotomy of the good witch and the wicked witch, a reflection perhaps of society's increasing discomfort with the vilification of witches. Yet, the stereotypical image persisted, embedded in popular culture through Halloween costumes and children's literature. In the modern world, the witch stereotype has taken on new dimensions. Feminist movements have reclaimed the image of the witch as a symbol of female empowerment. The witch, once a figure of fear and loathing, is now celebrated for her independence and connection to nature. However, the legacy of the witch hunts cannot be ignored. The stereotype of the witch continues to be a tool of othering, used to marginalize and demonize those who do not conform to societal norms. To sum up, the common stereotypes associated with witches have a rich and complex history. They originated in the Middle Ages as a result of societal fears and religious dogma. Over the centuries, these stereotypes have evolved, reflecting changing societal attitudes towards women, nonconformity, and the supernatural. Today, while the witch stereotype is used as a symbol of empowerment by some, its historical roots as a tool of persecution and marginalization serve as a stark reminder of the power of fear and superstition. Have you ever wondered why the pointed hat has become such a universal symbol of witchcraft? What is it about this peculiar headwear that has transcended time and culture, linking it to the mystical and the unknown? The pointed hat, often painted in shades of black or purple, has become a staple icon in our portrayal of witches. But why? One theory posits that the pointed hat was a symbolic representation of the cone, a shape that, in many ancient cultures, represented the mysteries of the cosmos and the divine. The pointed hat, therefore, was a symbolic connection between the witch and the world of the mystical, a bridge between the earthly and the divine. Another theory, perhaps more practical in nature, suggests that the pointed hat was used as a tool to channel magical energy. The shape of the hat, much like the apex of a pyramid or the spire of a church, could have been used to focus and direct the flow of magical energy, much like a conductor of sorts. It was believed that the pointed tip of the hat could draw down power from the cosmos, concentrating it into a single point, thereby enhancing the witch's magical abilities. Some have also suggested that the pointed hat was simply a sign of rebellion, a defiant emblem of those who dared to step outside the societal norms. In many cultures, the pointed hat was worn by those who were seen as different, outsiders, or even dangerous. Wearing such a hat was a bold statement, a declaration of one's difference and a refusal to conform to societal expectations. In essence, the pointed hat is much more than a mere accessory in the costume of a witch. It is a symbol that carries a myriad of meanings, from the mystical to the practical, from the rebellious to the divine. It is a testament to the complex nature of witchcraft, a practice that has been feared, misunderstood, and yet fascinatingly intriguing for centuries. To summarize, the pointed hat is a powerful symbol in witchcraft, representing a connection to the mystical and the divine, a tool for channeling magical energy, and a symbol of rebellion and nonconformity. It is a symbol that has stood the test of time and continues to intrigue and mystify us even today. From the ancient cone-shaped symbols of divinity, to a tool for channeling magical energy, to a bold emblem of rebellion, the pointed witch's hat is steeped in history and symbolism. A simple accessory perhaps, but one that carries a weight of meaning far beyond its humble appearance. So the next time you see a pointed hat, remember, it's not just a piece of headwear. It's a symbol of a rich and complex history, a testament to the power of symbolism, and a reminder of the mysteries that still surround the practice of witchcraft.
Ever pondered why witches in popular culture are almost always portrayed with pointy hats? It's a fascinating tale that weaves through centuries, reflecting changing societal attitudes and fears. Our journey begins in the Middle Ages, a time when the image of the witch was far removed from the pointed hat stereotype. Witches were often depicted as ordinary women, indistinguishable from any other. However, during this time, fear of witchcraft was rampant, and many innocent women were persecuted as witches. As we move into the 16th and 17th centuries, the image of the witch began to change. Woodcuts from this era, particularly in Europe, started featuring witches with pointy hats. This coincided with societal changes, as the pointy hat became associated with outcasts and those living on the fringes of society. The 18th and 19th centuries saw a romanticization of witches in art and literature. The pointy hat became less a symbol of fear and more an icon of mystery and power. Artists like Francisco Goya depicted witches in pointy hats, adding a touch of the exotic and the supernatural to their works. Moving into the 20th century, the image of the witch in popular culture underwent another significant transformation. The 1939 film, The Wizard of Oz, introduced audiences to the Wicked Witch of the West, complete with green skin and a pointy hat. This image became ingrained in the public's imagination, influencing the depiction of witches in countless films and TV shows that followed. And so, we arrive at the 21st century. Today, the pointy hat is a staple of witch costumes, especially at Halloween. It's a symbol of magical power and mystery, but also a nod to the historical persecution of those accused of witchcraft. In summary, the pointy hat has evolved from a symbol of fear and persecution in the Middle Ages, to a sign of the exotic and supernatural in later centuries, and finally to a popular culture icon in the 20th and 21st centuries. It's a journey that reflects the changing societal attitudes towards witches, from fear and suspicion to fascination and even admiration. The pointy hat is more than just a costume accessory. It's a potent symbol, telling a rich and complex story about our cultural history and our evolving perceptions of witches. So the next time you see a witch in popular culture, remember the centuries of history behind that iconic point.
It's important to note that there is no single universal reason why witches are depicted with pointy hats, and the image of a witch has evolved over time. In modern contexts, some witches may choose to wear pointy hats as a playful nod to traditional depictions, while others embrace a more diverse and personal style. The depiction of witches in popular culture is a complex blend of historical references, folklore, and creative storytelling.